Hello, welcome back to the Earle Wellbeing YouTube channel. Now this week I wanted to cover something a little bit topical. HRT has been in the headlines yet again recently with news of updates to the NICE Guidelines. Now these are guidelines that are evidence-based recommendations for health and care in England that GPs use to help inform our treatment. And in terms of the menopause, they've not been updated since 2015, so 8 years ago. And with the greater awareness of menopause having come so far in that time, we could be expecting some great things out of this guidance. Well, unfortunately, the main story that many outlets are reporting on is that CBT, that's cognitive behavioural therapy, will be offered instead of, or as well as, HRT for menopause symptoms. Well, on the face of it, it is offering women more choice for their treatment, but how will this actually work in practice? We know the CBT waiting lists are years in some cases. Well, I thought that I would hop on here to share my thoughts on this, as well as hopefully to signpost some helpful resources if you're struggling with menopause symptoms and open up the discussion. So CBT may well have a place when looking at an overall lifestyle approach to managing perimenopause, but what it won't do is improve every menopause symptom and health disorder, of which we know there are many, and more fundamentally, it won't improve a hormone deficiency. So that would be a bit like saying to someone with low levels of thyroxine, with a thyroid issue, and that's another natural hormone, so let's try talking about your symptoms first to see if that eases them before you give any of the extra thyroxine that your body needs to you to stay well. Okay, how's that going to go? I do also think that there is a bit, maybe more than a bit, of gender discrimination here. Can you imagine saying to men who are suffering from low mood and depression due to falling levels of testosterone, well, you can't have any replacement testosterone. We're going to do some talking therapy first. And that, of course, is just one of the very many symptoms that women suffer from when their estrogen levels drop in later life. That's a natural life stage. It's going to happen to all women if they lived long enough. Well, I picked up a humorous comment actually on Instagram that said, well, just imagine if every man requesting Viagra were told to light some incense and think positive thoughts, because that, to all intents and purposes, is what the NICE guidelines potentially are suggesting. But there was also this very insightful comment that I picked up from a clinical psychologist, Femke Otken, who posted, "I'm literally gobsmacked by the draft guidelines, quite aside from the fact that HRT has so much evidence behind it for both current symptom control and improvement, and prevention of future disease. There's hardly any evidence that CBT can do anything at all." This is a clinical psychologist talking. She said, "I've read the evidence they reviewed at the NICE committee and it's awful. In fact, the committee describe most of the evidence is very low and low quality. Of the 14 CBT studies looked at, 9 compared it to literally nothing, i.e. sitting on a wait list, and the other 5 compared it to treatment with comparative treatment. And when I looked at what this actually meant, it was things like having a 6-month check from an oncologist. Well, what woman wouldn't benefit to some extent to talking about symptoms and having menopause acknowledged for an hour for 4 to 6 weeks? Yeah, great. But we cannot draw these kinds of recommendation from these data." This is the clinical psychologist talking. "That a group of apparently esteemed clinicians have done so shocks me beyond belief. If I'd drawn such conclusions from such poor evidence, I would never have passed my doctorate. But my doctoral thesis didn't affect the lives of 13 million people." Interesting comment. Well, you may have seen this comment made by Dr. Louise Newson in The Times. It was published last week, and I've got it here. This is what she wrote. It's headlined, "This approach to the menopause is gaslighting women." She says, "Menopause has traditionally been defined as periods ending or cessation of fertility. Menopause occurs, however, because of sex hormones being low. The entrenched taboo around hormonal health is often underpinned by sexism and ageism. The current support for the 1.2 billion menopausal women globally is completely inadequate." The word hyster is Greek for womb. So even thinking about the association of the words hysterectomy and hysteria speaks volumes. Women have been locked away in asylums, given amphetamines and benzodiazepines, and even had lobotomies to try to improve psychological symptoms related to their perimenopause and menopause. I've spoken to women who've received ECG, electroconvulsive therapy, and have been given ketamine infusions in private clinics, yet hormonal changes have never been considered. The National Institute for Health and Clinical Excellence, NICE, has published new draft guidelines, menopause guidelines, in which these women are being offered cognitive behavioural therapy. This is a backward step. Female sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone and testosterone, reduce inflammation and regulate how our brains and bodies function. Symptoms of menopause and perimenopause include low mood, anxiety, reduced self-esteem and energy, low self-worth and suicidal thoughts. The suicide rate rises 7 times in women in their late 40s. Menopause is described by NICE as a normal life transition. What's normal about having an increased risk of common diseases, including cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, osteoporosis, clinical depression and dementia? Diseases behind more than 60% of mortality in England. HRT is cheap, effective, reduces these diseases and improves life expectancy, yet NICE neglects many of these benefits. Its draft guidelines discuss potential risks of older types of HRT, breast cancer is mentioned 150 times, and riddled with factual errors. Many of the experts involved have their own agendas that do not appear to involve improving the lives of women. Wow. Only 14% of menopausal women are prescribed HRT. It's often easier to have antidepressants prescribed. And in areas of deprivation, it's much lower. Women are often told that they do not need it or their symptoms are not related to their hormones. This amounts to medical gaslighting. Too many women are becoming invisible by giving up work because of untreated symptoms, of being misdiagnosed with psychiatric disorders, and by not being listened to. Dr. Louise Newson is a GP and menopause specialist. Wow, that is hard-hitting. You can look it up for yourself. It's on the Times website. Well, what do you think? Do you think women should be encouraged to keep ploughing on and try and fix their symptoms with talking therapy? Or do you think GPs should be encouraged to give women who are suffering, often severely so, with physical symptoms due to a lack of hormones, their natural body-identical hormones back? Okay, no prizes for guessing. I know what I think. Personally, I would not be able to function without replacing my estrogen. My insomnia, heart palpitation, tinnitus, recurrent UTIs, and so many more really debilitating symptoms would have stopped me working and definitely stopped me living life to the full, not to mention improve my mood, energy levels, and all those health protective benefits too. There's also no mention of testosterone replacement for women, despite there being increasing evidence that this helps improve cognitive function, our brain health, memory, mood, muscle mass, and so much more for women in need. Well, I know what I am going to be saying in response to NICE, and if you'd like to let them know your thoughts, you can email. The best one to use is comments@newsonhealth.co.uk. That's because they're a registered stakeholder and they pass on each and every comment directly to NICE. You can, if you prefer, you can go to the NICE website. You can leave a comment there. The website address is nice.org.uk. I'll make sure we pop all the links down below. Search menopause guidelines, but they don't publish comments from individuals and they actually encourage us to go through a registered stakeholder like Newson Health. But whichever way you make contact, I do think it's really important to have your say. Share what you think and be part of a hopefully positive update here on the guidelines. These are the things that are given to all medics and GPs working in England to better help women going through perimenopause and menopause. I'd love to hear from you on this one too. What do you think? Is this good news, bad news, disappointing? As ever, let me know in the comments. And be sure to check out the Earle Wellbeing website because we have a wealth of information and lots of free resources on menopause and more, obviously. Plus, there's always lots of chat going on our social channels, Instagram, TikTok, even. And we've got a fabulous community of midlife warriors, midlife women warriors. So do join us there. Guys are welcome too, obviously. And I'll see you here next time. Thanks for watching.